I've gone ahead and watched Gungrave fucking again. This is probably my fourth time watching this anime in my entire life. And when I watched it like a long fucking time ago, I was just so fucking just smacked in the face by its beautiful and tragic story. The anime is actually really fucking good. Animation is dated, but the story is really fucking good and explains that's referenced in the games a lot and shows more of what transpired in the past with Brandon Heat and Harry McDowell. The game focuses a lot on the action and the modern day story, while the anime focuses more on the past and showing us more in detail of these characters and what they've been doing in the past and how they came up to be who we see in the video game, right? They have tried to continue the story of Brandon Heat past his initial story with Harry McDowell. Unfortunately, I think a lot of it is uninteresting. I don't think it's really popular like the stories for the game's past, like the whole storyline, the original storyline. But the original storyline for Gungrave will always be like top tier, popular. His vendetta, Brandon Heat's vendetta against this version of Millennium that his former best friend Harry McDowell has created is just, you know, full on just interesting, just so fucking fun to watch. Tragic. It just pulls at your heartstrings, and I gotta talk about it. Of course, I will say there are some differences between the animates being different, the seed drug not being really introduced in the anime and sort of being put on the back burner, but it's more, you know, it does make an appearance here in the anime. It's just not really referenced at all in the anime, but, you know, we get Orgmen and Superiors and so on and so forth. So it's technically in the anime. Watched it and it's just it's awesome, honestly. So buckle up, get ready for a break because I'm gonna talk in detail about the show and tell you how deep everything goes because it's fucking insane. Now, I'm going to talk about the events from how it started with a young Brandon Heat and Harry McDowell. So be prepared because it's about to hurt your fucking soul, right? Not as much as the actual anime when you do watch it, but goddamn. Like these guys were just goddamn street rats, like fighting in the streets and fighting other gangs. Brandon being the muscle and Harry the brains and charisma with their friends Jawless, Nathan, and Kenny. They're street rats. They try to go ahead and try their best to survive as much as possible, robbing, you know, just doing their thing, swindling. That's mainly Harry's whole part, especially with him swindling money from rich people, sleeping with them, just being a fucking whore, technically. All this until Mad Dog, a guy who got into a not native to the city that the story is set in, returns and begins cleaning up his younger brother's mess by going after Brandon and Harry and the gang, right? He fucking goes ahead and just kills Jawless, like the nicest guy in the group, doesn't even fight or anything. He just makes them food. Point blank kills him in their home. And then he confronts Brandon, but kills the father figure, Brandon's love interest, or Bear, this, you know, badass sweeper from the mafia that controls the entire city, the organization Millennium, comes in to investigate why Mad Dog is here, and then he shows up, right? Then they have another confrontation. Nathan, one of Brandon's buddies, takes Kenny's gun to try and kill Mad Dog, but finds out it's just a fucking toy. Then he gets popped himself. Then Kenny is like all like distraught about it. Then he gets popped and dies, right? It's insane. Like this prompts Bear to face off against Mad Dog, but ultimately kills Mad Dog, and Bear just, you know, just knew he wouldn't talk or anything. So he said, fuck it. I'm going to go ahead and kill him. He did offer up the opportunity to have Brandon or Harry kill him for their buddies, but, you know, they were just too shell shocked to even, you know, comprehend everything that's going on because of their loss. And Bear was like, yeah, these are just fucking kids. I don't care anymore. And just walks away. So seeing how Millennium operates, Brandon and Harry were stunned and heartbroken over everything. And, you know, they just basically started crashing out at everyone because their friends died, and, you know, just a crazy situation, of course. It's understandable. That's what I love about the anime is that so much of what happens, right, is so understandable. But with all their crash outs, they do get too much heat on them and they get hunted down by a local gang. The fight cemetery where Big Daddy, the leader of Millennium, and Freya's late took her in because he accidentally killed her parents on a job, and that's what caused him to leave the life. And it just, there's so much story, there's so much background, there's so much everything here, right? You know, they see the shootout, and Big Daddy told his men to deal with it. And this is where Brandon and Harry got their chance to join Millennium, where they situation. Harry wants to ask to join Millennium. Then he said, then the executive was like, "Hey, what are you gonna do for Millennium? You can't just go ahead and kill people, right? Go ahead and use them, squeeze them, take their money, etc., etc." And Harry's like, "Fucking bet," and he goes with Brandon to go ahead and rob all these powerful guys around their town, well, their little section of their town. And he gets in the car, and Brandon joins him, and that's how they join Millennium, right? Big Daddy takes Maria to his mansion so he can live, well, not he, she can live and go to school and be supported, and Brandon joins Millennium to be close by her and wants to join Harry on, you know, climbing the ladder at Millennium, right? It makes perfect sense, he killing and being with Harry. However, both Brandon and Harry are separated for a few months until Brandon meets Harry again, who is now an assistant to a made man, part of the family, and is an executive, right? Then he gets introduced to Bob and Lee, men with their own specialties that Harry wants to use to reach the top of the ladder, and starts visiting Maria, but is warned against it until Big Daddy, yeah, I know it's a crazy ass fucking name to call another grown man, but that's just how it is, I guess. You know, kind of takes Brandon under his wing and spends time with him, which is, you know, pretty interesting. They just go ahead and fish and talk, and, you know, I guess Big Daddy enjoys how Brandon is pretty much true to himself. And I guess, I wouldn't say I guess, he appreciates how Brandon is true to himself and doesn't sugarcoat things and doesn't try to, you know, kiss up and make sure that he is being proper and so on, because he appreciates Brandon being himself, which is really nice. It shows Big Daddy's character. A lot of the anime shows Big Daddy's character of being somebody who needs to, who's soft to be done when the time comes, right? Everything comes to a head when a group tries to assassinate Big Daddy, but Brandon got in the way, killing the assassin, but gets shot himself, right? Gets shot himself, right? At the same time, Harry was taking out like the bigger group tied with this assassin that tried to raid the party, that, of course, which we get a bit of a time skip to where they got some accolades, they got some reputation, right? And Brandon working now as a sweeper, since now he doesn't just use his fist anymore. Well, he can. He will beat the shit out of somebody. He uses guns and he clears out all of Millennium's enemies. Finally entering the life of a mobster, becomes a very talented sweeper, while Harry conducted more of the business stuff to make more money and get noticed and take over more of the businesses that other people are kind of slacking on, of course, right? He's always going ahead and trying to pick up more business, more money, and innovate everything to what he thinks will make money. And 9 times out of 10, it will. In this chapter of both Harry and Brandon's life, we see more of what Millennium is about, their code of iron, that is like the death to traitors and how deep the loyalty goes. If anything you do hurts the organization, you just get a bullet to the back of the head or something, right? It doesn't matter. At first, we had Millennium get targeted by a small group who wanted to assassinate statement while using this hotshot hitman that they end up betraying anyway, who later, with Brandon, clears these guys up in no time and then joins Brandon as his number 2 after losing a bet, right? Then we have an instance of the Code of Iron being broken, where Bear's best friend, another made man, chose his son when his son caused the death of one of Bear's guests in the city, and he tries to make his own moves, and it caused the death of Bear's guest, and now the crosshairs is on the son, but because of the best friend of Bear, like letting him be free and skip town, the crosshairs is now on the father, which is incredibly fucking sad. Big Daddy, who's known Bear and his best friend of Bear for a long time, since before Millennium, when he went ahead and took these guys under their wing, gave the order to kill him, but he felt incredibly shitty about it. It felt incredibly sad and heavy about it. Of course, it's understandable. It's just because imagine you're like you went ahead and took some snappers under your wing who were just beefing in the streets, and you went ahead and gave them a life, gave them a chance to have beautiful families and kids, and then one of them took the blame for their kids' mistakes, and you got to give the order to kill him to set an example, to keep the code of iron from being eroded, of course, right? So Bear went and attempted to execute him, but couldn't because of his feelings about his best friend. He's like, yeah, this is my best friend, I don't want to kill him. And you know, it's understandable, right? The best friend didn't want to die, and he was just trying to protect his stupid son. But then Brandon shows up and kills him in Bear's place, and his last words being "Dad" and crying and getting his head blown off is insane. It's incredibly sad. It's incredibly heartbreaking, but it's beautiful the way they represent how the story of Brandon and this organization of brotherhood of mobsters, of the mafia, and how important these rules are. No matter if you're my brother or anything, right? If you break this code of iron, you're getting a cap in your ass. That's just how it is. And it's incredibly heartbreaking. It just hurts so fucking badly, because just before all this, they were having drinks, they were having a good time. But then when the best friend found out that his son fucked up, it was just insane, right? But after these set of events, we start steering more into the more science fiction aspect of Gungrave's story, with the release of a psycho sweeper named Blood War, along with Canon Vulcan, and they set their sights on Millennium, where they immediately were discovered by Harry and Brandon. It's funny because Blood War and Canon Vulcan are like the opposites of Brandon and Harry. Blood Vulcan is the sweeper type, who is more ambitious and, you know, a little bit more charismatic, while Vulcan is more of that reserved business type, whose dream is with Blood War to have his, you know, have his like immortal army or whatever, right? To take over Millennium, or just take over the world, as they would say. Just something very fucking vague. Then they use the experimental process that has been hinted at ever since like the first episode, I think the first or second episode, with what was his name? Mad Dog. Yeah, the guy that got killed by Bear and killed the father figure of Maria. And this whole science experiment called necrolization, to bring back the dead to life. And Blood War kills his entire gang and turns them into these undead soldiers who are basically just killing machines that don't fucking die, and use them against Millennium. And it's incredibly, I almost said incredibly super effective. But yeah, that's basically what happens. Like, Millennium can't do fuck all when it comes to these soldiers, these undead, and Harry's just fucking perplexed. He's like, how the fuck is this happening? But it took Brandon tricking Blood War to stop the carnage and armed himself heavily to deal with Blood War's undead gangsters. At the same time, it's revealed that Lee was Vulcan's little brother and was feeding intel to them, but Harry confronted him, broke the code Lee to keep him on his side, and was brought to where the necrolization is done. And Harry keeps tabs on Dr. Tokioka because he's interested in this little program, because, you know, immortal fucking soldiers, of course. It makes total fucking sense. You would want something for you to have, right? Going back to Brandon, he finds out ahead and fights all these guys, and it's just crazy. It's just, honestly, like, the fight, he's trying his best. He has this badass weapon that he's going ahead and using, but it's fucking up his arm. It's so powerful. He's running out of bullets. There's so many of them. He managed to take out like 7 of them out of like the 15 or something, and he has to deal with blood wars. And then this motherfucker just goes ahead and just like, when I can't speak, I'm getting so jumbled up right now. But essentially what's going on is that when he's fighting these fucking monsters, there is a time limit to how much the necrolyzed soldiers or gangbangers or whatever, the gangsters, can be out and about, and they'll go ahead and die within like what, 72 hours, 116 hours or some shit. At a certain, they have a time limit to the necrolization project, and that's what happened. Blood War goes ahead and gets upset, and he knew he was gonna lose, so he ate like this necrolization pill or whatever, and shot himself, turned into a big old fucking monster, kill him in some fucking way. I forget how, because it was just insane. I think it was looking away or some shit because it was that quick. But honestly, you know, it was just a precursor to what's to come in a story with necrolization, and it's just fucking insane. So after the whole craziness with Blood War and Canon Vulcan, some years went by, and Harry and Brandon are in the inner circle now, just so fucking comfortable now in the inner circle. And Harry has been working on the necrolization project for his own means, of course, because why the fuck not? At the same time, Brandon finds out Maria's pregnant, and it's Big Daddy's child. Maria, baby, is going to be loved and so on and so forth. And Big Daddy is kind of, you know, sad about it because he knew Brandon loved her, and breaks down to him, apologizing to him. But Brandon was, you know, of course hurt, but wouldn't show it. He felt content knowing Maria and her child was going to be happy, and knew that Big Daddy was going to take care of them. And, you know, it made Big Daddy feel even more like shit because he's just such a nice guy when it comes to Maria. As long as she's taken care of, it's fine. I feel like he doesn't really view himself as being worthy of her, so he does his best to be close to her, support her and be there for her, but he doesn't feel like he deserves her in some way, especially now that he's just a sweeper and the best sweeper now, with this time skip. And it's just very complicated, very messy situation. But, you know, that's life. That's what I like. That's what I love about this anime. There's just some very messy situations going on that, you know, is just insane. Just insane, that are very interesting to watch and see unfold, right? At some point, Harry picks up on Harry. No, I got them both switched up. Brandon picks up on Harry acting different and so on and so forth. There is some real distance between them, especially when they got older, when they got more powerful. Well, Harry got more powerful and him trying to move up the ladder. And things went towards a breaking point when Big Daddy named someone else as the next boss of Millennium. But applauded. He didn't really react much. I know everybody was kind of bummed because, you know, Bob went ahead and put a listening device in the room, and when asked about it, Harry just kind of like, you know, I'm fine, you know, I'm good, you know, things, you know, I just got to work a little bit harder, do my thing, this and that, right? But when Big Daddy was talking about Harry, Brandon defended Harry, but said anyone will be dealt with if they break the code of iron. And this scared the shit out of Harry, right? Because Bob went ahead and bugged his room, and as a joke, he went ahead and put the phone to his ear to, you know, quote unquote listen to whatever. But he goes ahead and hears what Brandon said, that head and face him if they break the code of iron, which Harry has already done, which makes him paranoid, right, about who he can trust, especially like, you know, him judging the relationship between Big Daddy and Brandon, right? He's kind of upset about it. He's pretty upset about it, as you'll see or hear from me when I get through this fucking script, of course, because I can't fucking speak. This really changes a lot of things going on between them, which is really fucking sad. Like you can see them trying really hard, trying to talk to each other. So when Brandon and Harry were together, they just rolled around town, and, you know, they decided to go to where they grew up, like this orphans. Um, they are both. I can't speak right now. They are both orphans, and that's how they met in an orphanage, right? Then Brandon brought up seeing the guys, and Harry legit forgot who these guys were, which Brandon was shocked about. But Harry remembered at the nick of time and said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And then things were pretty weird between them until they got to the graves of Nathan, Kenny, and Jollis, where they talked a little bit, and Harry still made some empty promise about giving them a proper burial. Then they go back to Millennium, like the building, of course, and only for Harry to ask Brandon if he would betray Big Daddy and also get Maria on top of that. And this prompts Brandon to punch him in the and pull a gun. I'm like, holy shit, it's happening right now in an elevator, like 50 stories in the fucking sky. What's going on here? But Brandon could not pull the trigger, and this gave Harry the go to pull his own gun and shoot Brandon multiple times, shooting him out of the elevator window, stories above in the sky, and we see Harry's true face come out, filled with ambition and greed, his best friend. Then he spun the story that Brandon was a traitor, that he was stealing money, this and that, and nobody really believed him, but people couldn't really refute it because Harry grew too powerful. He began to seize power off intimidation and fear. Big Daddy was forced to give him control of Millennium, so Harry does course and stop any bloodshed. But when Maria found out that it was Harry that killed Brandon, oh my god, like she attempted to assassinate this man himself. Was on some crazy shit. She was like, he took my Brandon away from me. I'm gonna take his life. Fuck this motherfucker. I'm like, damn, Maria, where was this energy like months ago? Where was this assertiveness when Brandon was alive? You could have literally went ahead and just taken this man. Just been like, you're coming with me now, mister. You're gonna be putting a baby in me now. Not this old motherfucker over here. But let me just relax. Big Daddy stops her and went up to confront Harry, who, while Harry did not much care for Big Daddy, mouthing off at him because he already had Millennium, he already had everything. But when it's how Brandon knew every shady deal, every fucked decision he made, how he broke the code of iron and everything, but didn't say shit because he gave Harry the benefit of the doubt because he believed in Harry. Oh man. Oh my god. This man, Harry, crashed out and just went ahead and just killed Big Daddy. Like he was having a whole mental breakdown, just shooting Big Daddy while he was just dead on the ground, right? It was insane. And Harry was just struggling so hard because, again, he lost his best friend and he blames Big Daddy for it. He's always have blamed Big Daddy for it, even after he killed them both. And he was still crashing out. It was insane, right? But Big Daddy neglected that Brandon was still alive, reborn through necrolization, and now with Big Daddy gone, Maria and her child had to leave and go into hiding. Brandon was put in stasis until years later when Maria's kid, Mika, is 13 years old and is being hunted by Millennium. She uses a briefcase left by her mom that Dr. Tokioka gave to use if she needs Brandon, now called Beyond the Grave. Fuck that. I'm not calling him that. It's Brandon Heat because I love that goddamn name, right? So they go and save her, and they did, right? And now we're in the present day. Millennium now has to deal with the return of Brandon Heat, and this is when Harry's closest people start trying to fight him after turning into superiors. Monsters made in a similar way to necrolization, but they don't need to die to turn into these indestructible like monsters, right? After killing Bob, Bear, Lee, and Bungie, Brandon sets his sights on Harry, whose whole world is falling apart. Surprise, surprise, the easy way fucks you over in the end, right? Thanks to the fall of his inner circle, the other executives began making arrangements to take everything away from Harry. At some point, his wife, Sherry, Bear's daughter, gets killed in a shootout. And I will say, and flirting with a girl who was barely legal when he was in his mid-20s, maybe late 20s or something, and getting in a relationship with her, actually develop like a whole long-standing marriage with her. It's crazy to me. But I feel like it was kind of part of his plan to use this to make sure Bear couldn't oppose him because he loves his daughter so much. And I think he legit loved Sherry. Like at some point, like, he was like, yeah, this is my girl, this is my wife right here. And he respected her all the way down until he was the only one at her funeral. Like, he was there to pay his respects and be there for her in death, right? While when she passed, when she was basically killed for, Harry, right? Killed because of Harry. I will say though, again, otra vez, even Mika expressing her love for Brandon when she was like 13 was a little weird, but I'm pretty sure she's expressing her love in a familial way. Brandon only protects her because she is Maria's kid and nothing more. And, of course, he probably has that familial. But, I know people will be weird about it because, it's anime, I guess. But in the games, they do have this more of a big uncle, like niece sort of like relationship. I'm pretty sure. I haven't played the games much, but I'm pretty sure that's how their relationship is, because she sends Brandon out to go where it needs his expertise. So Brandon goes after, telling her that she's going to have a great life and knocking her out. He goes to find Harry, who is on the run from the organization because they now have anti-Orgman bullets that they developed to deal with Harry and his Orgman. So it's obvious Harry is going through a lot right now with his unresolved thing he has done. Hell, when he killed Brandon, he was crashing out so much that he was blaming Big Daddy for taking away the most important person to him, and that he had to kill Brandon because if no one can have Brandon, if he can't have Brandon, no one will, because he betrayed Harry. But Brandon all along was on Harry's side, not killed of iron. So he's so conflicted about that, and it's just so interesting to see Harry unravel, right? So when Brandon finds Harry, they both go to the same place, both of them, and the old crew lived. All run down and basically falling apart. They have a heavy conversation about what happened to them, what happened between them, how they feel about each other, and they're different mindsets and perspectives fighting each other. It's so very interesting. And even though they disagreed on many things, they care for each other still. When the organization does show up to kill Harry, both Brandon and Harry hold out in their old hideout fighting the organization. Brandon makes an effort not to kill anyone, and while they do get rather injured, and when the building collapsed on them, Brandon saves them, but he gets heavily injured himself. Seeing this, Harry takes out the guys, and seeing Brandon hurt, Harry finally realizes that he fucked up, that all this is his fucking fault, saying sorry. He says, "Brandon, I'm so sorry," which, kind of hits different. And he double, tripled, like quadrupled down on being this villain, right? And him sort of just psychologically being torn down with the loss of his wife, his organization, his position, everything, right? It just hits different, man. And he went ahead and went the easy way, went through a shortcut to success to get everything he wanted everything he wanted, but at the cost of his best friend that he wanted to have everything with his best friend, right? But he was just too fucking hasty. And Harry then got shot up himself. And after Brandon gets up and takes out the guy the fuck out, right? And with both of them having each other's guns pointed at each other, and then it transitions to a sheet in the sky, the same one both them as kids were mesmerized by, because it was so flying in the sky, and that's how they wanted to be, and that's how the anime ends. Ending in the tales of relationships ending due to betrayal and heartbreak, and just crazy ass stuff, where we see men with power do with where we see what men with power do with it, and reveal who they truly are. It's just, man, it's just so heavy, so interesting, so deep, and honestly, I highly suggest it. The anime does a great job showing us the tragic life of Brandon Heat, as well as the rise and fall of his best friend, Harry McDowell. Gungrave is at its best when it's Brandon's revenge story, or in another perspective, avenging the organization he originally pledged to, the one Big Daddy created. After that, in the games, the story focuses on the seeds that created Orgman, and Mika created an organization herself to help right the wrongs. This alien-like drug that creates these monsters, you know, I don't really give a fuck about, right? After Brandon's set of events, you're basically just muscle to push the narrative in a certain direction and to stop the big bad evil guy. And I don't particularly care for anything past the original story. The anime itself, however, I highly suggest if you have not watched it before. And to the people who have watched it, what are your favorite parts of the franchise? Just let me know what you enjoy about everything, right? Would you be open to a remake of Gungrave, or do you think that they'll fuck it up and you want it to be as is? I absolutely love Gungrave, and the next anime I want to cover will be Trigun, right? Because it's God, God, I love Trigun. Hell, I even will talk about the manga because Trigun maximum hard. But anyways, I'm getting way too off topic. Oh, off topic. I can't speak. But yeah, I love to hear your opinions on the anime, the franchise as a whole, if you have gone through it all. Thank you so much for watching, and subscribe for more, and see you guys next time. Stay safe and healthy, mentally, emotionally, and physically. See you guys next time. Peace.